Summary of Absolute Power. Chapter 8. Throwing Open the Windows. This is a book by Paul Collins. Vatican II. The Roman Curia and universities controlled the initial schemata or documents that regulated the conciliar preparations. There was a struggle between traditionalists and reformers, with many supporting either side. However, it wasn't as simple as two factions engaging in rhetoric. Vatican II opening ceremony was on the 11th of October 1962. This took 7 hours, with bishops sitting on raised stands that separated them based on ordination and rank. There were 2,640 bishops present, and every day after started with Mass, that then was followed by debate in Latin. 225 experts were present, as well as separated brethren from the Anglican, World Council of Churches, and various Eastern and Oriental Orthodox churches were there. This culminated in 50 non-Catholics present in the council. The first session of the Second Vatican Council began from the 13th of October 1962 to the 8th of December. Similar to Vatican I, the Curia desired that bishops accept their list of demands. Coitus Internationales Patrem, or International Group of Fathers, was an organization formed by bishops and theologians like Luigi Caeli, who were an influential minority and could pressure the Pope if need be. Bishop Emile de Schmidt from Belgium started a draft of Lumen Gentium and had overstated clericalism, judicism, triumphalism, Romanism, and papal ownership of the church. Debate loomed about the liturgy, language use about the liturgy, revelation, communication, church unity, and bishop authority. Lumen Gentium was adopted by the council on the 21st of November 1964. Chapters 1 and 2 of Lumen Gentium discussed the constitution of the church as the people of God, communion and sacramental image, and it sought to rebalance power dynamics between papal primacy, infallibility, and the hierarchy, as well as the laity. The church was said to be a sacrament, according to Karl Rahner, the basic sacrament, a symbolic image of God's active role in the world, which is entrusted to uphold integrity, seek justice, and bring salvation to the world through the promises of Christ. This was a bottom-up perspective of the church, and emphasized both the local community and church hierarchy. The second session was held on the 29th of September 1963. Pope John XXIII died on the 3rd of June, and Montini of Milan became Pope Paul VI, who announced the council to continue. He was the prior Secretariat of State. Lumen Gentium was presented as a focal point, and the idea of the co-legality of bishops was discussed and debated, on whether bishops should be able to talk freely about certain matters. This was considered by traditionalists to be unheard of and threatening the idea of papal primacy. There was also much debate on the role of the laity, married deaconates, and world poverty. Christus Dominus was a schema of pastoral office of bishops or government of the diocese, and it focused too much on centralizing papal power. They also introduced the idea of the Synod of Bishops, which handled the discussion of episcopal authority. On the 18th of November, a schema was introduced on Ecumenism, Judaism's relationship, and religious liberty. It was difficult to discuss, especially due to the tense relationship between Israel and Palestine. Bishop de Schmidt brought up the topic of religious liberty based on the conscience and choice of an individual. It was attacked by bishops from Muslim countries who believe religious liberty to be a primarily Western idea. Constitution of the Liturgy was written in the 4th of October 1963. It introduced the local vernacular to Mass and the sacraments, allowing for full participation of the lay in worship, since prior to this Latin was spoken. Ecumenism. Pope Paul VI met with Athenagoras I of Constantinople, Patriarch of Eastern Orthodoxy. Paul VI also met with Anglican Archbishop Michael Ramsey, Coptic Patriarch Shenouda III, and advocated for dialogue between other denominations like Methodists, Reformed churches, and Lutherans. The third session of the Vatican II Council was held in the 14th of September 1964 to the 21st of November 1964. It debated on the nature of the church, episcopal office, ecumenism, revelation, the involvement of the laity, religious liberty, Judaism, and the church's relation to the modern world. Bishops opposed ideas of co-legality, and Luigi Caeli believed bishops didn't share the authority of papal government. The Declaration on Jews was a political contention, especially for the Arab world. Gaudium et spes. On October 1964, the church in the modern world discussed the focus of the church in ministry and discussed topics like social justice, nuclear weapons, population, sexuality, and contraception. The fourth session was held on the 14th of September 1965. Pope Paul VI stated that the Roman Curia would be reformed, there would be a synod of bishops, and canon law was to be revised. There was also to be a declaration of religious liberty, which was, however, debated and fiercely rejected by the Coitus Internationales Patrem. Additionally, a declaration on non-Christian religions was being drafted, and a document on the Jews were added to it. Gaudium et spes was being debated on its views on sexuality, marriage, rejection of birth control, and the document was deemed to have a soft stance against communism. By the 7th of December 1965, Gaudium et spes was approved. Regimini Ecclesiae Universae, 1967. According to Paul Collins, this was to appease the traditionalists to affirm the old hierarchy. It made the office of Secretariat of State as another curia inside the curia, becoming similar to a papal prime minister. The French Cardinal Jean Vallot in 1969 became secretary, who had substitutes that acted on his behalf to oversee international affairs and foreign affairs. Osterpolitik was a negotiation between communist regimes and the papacy in Eastern Europe in order to reduce Catholic persecution. Impact in the Roman Curia. The Holy Office was renamed to the Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith, the CDF. The Congregation for Evangelization of Peoples stemmed from the Congregation of Propaganda Fidei. Creation of new bodies like the Secretariats of Christian Unity in 1960, of Non-Believers in 1965, and the Pontifical Council for Justice and Peace was established in 1967. And there were also many other bodies created. There was to be a new rule whereby cardinals lost the vote on papal appointment when they turned 80, and officials in the Vatican had to resign at age 75. Curial offices cases increased from 200 at the beginning of the century to 3,000 by 1978. There was to be a internationalized college of cardinals, and Pope Paul VI throughout his life appointed 143 new cardinals from around the world and extended the College of Cardinals limits to 120 travel. Pope Paul VI was the first pope to travel internationally. He visited Israel, Jordan, India, and Lebanon in 1964, the United States in 1965, Colombia in 1968, Uganda in 1969, the Philippines, Australia, Samoa, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Hong Kong, and Indonesia in 1970. In the UN, he advocated for peace. Populorum Progressio 1967. This addressed the gap between rich and poor, desiring the development for all through charity and foreign aid, and it also discussed the importance of social responsibility in ownership and wealth. The encyclical stated that prices of exports for developing nations should be increased and loan repayments should be more generous. He was the first pope to recognize the problem of rapid global population growth and how it affects access to development and resources. Development was deemed to be part and parcel of peace and justice for all. Additional encyclicals. Pope Paul VI also wrote Sacerdotalis, caelibatus. In 1967, at the time, many priests left the priesthood to marry. He defended celibacy in the priesthood. Humanae vitae in 1968 was written by Pope Paul VI and Jesuit Gustave Martelet, which affirms marriage and fidelity and condemns the use of contraception, as intercourse is a natural process that allows for conception. The death of Pope Paul VI. Pope Paul VI died of a heart attack on the 6th of August 1978 at his papal residence. In summary, Pope John XXIII and Pope Paul VI led the way for reform in the Church through the Second Vatican Council, which led to the documents including Lumen Gentium, Christus Dominus, Constitution of the Liturgy, and Gaudium et spes, which helped transform the life of Catholics as language was spoken in the local vernacular, and also theologically defined what exactly is the Church, and the laity were more involved in the Church as the community of God. The Vatican also opened up the relationship between Catholics and other denominations of Christendom through Ecumenism. Pope Paul VI penned encyclicals to address delegation of power, the role of the Secretariat, poverty and development, affirmed celibacy, and rejected the use of contraception. Therefore, this period in history was influential for modernizing, reforming, and opening up the Catholic Church to the rest of the world. Thanks for watching.